You picture it. Buy some land. Put up a shiny showroom. Park a few hundred cars out front and watch the money roll in. Local dealer. Richest guy in town. Retires at 50. Almost none of that is how this business actually works. There are roughly 17,000 franchise new car dealers in the United States. Together, they sell more than 16 million vehicles every year, generating over $1.3 trillion in sales, plus another $164 billion from service and repairs. Big numbers. The kind that make people think, I want in. Here's what almost nobody mentions. Despite moving more than $1 trillion every year, the average dealership keeps only about 1 to 2.5% of that as actual profit. Sell a $10,000 car, and after every cost is counted, the dealer might clear just $100 to $250. So how does an industry with margins that thin create some of the wealthiest people in town? That's what this comes down to. And it has almost nothing to do with the cars themselves. There are 3 ways into this business. You can buy a mainstream franchise like Ford, Toyota, or Chevrolet, a luxury franchise, or an independent used car lot. Each one looks similar from the outside. Behind the sign, they're completely different businesses. Mainstream franchises run on volume. The profit on each car is thin, but they're backed by national advertising and manufacturer financing. In return, the manufacturer controls your facility design, requires expensive renovations, and largely dictates your inventory. Luxury franchises flip the equation. They sell fewer cars, but earn much larger margins on every sale. Their customers are also less sensitive to economic downturns. The luxury segment is projected to grow between 8 and 14% annually as the number of wealthy buyers continues to expand. The trade-off? The upfront investment. Luxury standard buildings cost dramatically more to construct. Independent used car lots operate very differently. No manufacturer oversight. No mandatory renovations. Just you, a fence lot, and a wholesale auction account. It's the cheapest way to enter the industry, but also the weakest. There's no factory-backed warranty repair work, which, as it turns out, is one of the biggest profit centers. Financing terms are usually worse, and per-car profits tend to be lower. Roughly $1,500 per vehicle, compared with about $2,000 for franchise dealers. The franchise model may be expensive and restrictive, but over time, it usually wins because it stacks multiple profit streams instead of relying on just one. The cost of getting in. Opening a franchise dealership typically costs between $5 and $10 million. Just to open the doors. Not to get rich. Just to start. That includes a franchise fee paid directly to the manufacturer, as little as $30,000 for a mainstream brand, and well over $500,000 for some premium imports. You'll also need 4 to 8 acres of land. Construction costs range from around $120 to $150 per square foot for a basic metal building, up to $250 to $450 per square foot for the concrete structures luxury brands often require. Manufacturers also want proof that you can survive financially. Typically, that means having between $500,000 and $1 million in liquid capital, along with a net worth of $2 to $4 million. Then come licensing and bonding fees. Dealer management software. Another $75,000 to $250,000. And that's all before a single car ever reaches the lot. Inventory isn't simple. You don't just order whatever you think will sell. Manufacturers use a system called turn and earn. Dealers who sell inventory quickly receive better inventory during the next allocation cycle. Slower dealers get starved of the best vehicles. Manufacturers also hold back around 10 to 15% of production, using it to reward or pressure dealers whenever they choose. Used inventory comes from trade-ins and wholesale auctions. Bidding can finish in under a minute. Every purchase includes buyer premiums, plus transportation costs that can exceed $2,000. By the time reconditioning and fees are added, that great deal may only produce a 5 to 6% margin once it reaches the lot. Almost none of this inventory is paid for in cash. Instead, dealerships use something called floor plan financing. It's essentially a revolving credit line. Lenders typically finance 95 to 100% of a new car's cost, and around 75 to 90% of a used car's value. Each loan is repaid the moment that vehicle sells. But every day a car remains unsold, it quietly bleeds money, interest, insurance, depreciation. Together, those costs can reach $40 to $85 per vehicle. Every single day. Stretch the average turnaround by just 10 days across 100 cars, and you've burned tens of thousands of dollars without earning a single extra dollar of revenue. Cars that sit for 90 to 120 days can also trigger financing clauses requiring the dealer to begin paying down the principal out of pocket, often forcing deep discounts just to move inventory. Where the real money hides. Most people assume dealerships make their money selling cars. They're mostly wrong. Because buyers now have instant access to pricing data, front-end profit on new vehicles has steadily shrunk. Average gross profit sits around $2,247 per new car. Used vehicles perform slightly better, with margins of roughly 12 to 15%, compared with about 7% for new cars. The real profit center is the finance office, the room you enter after agreeing to buy, the room where the paperwork happens. That single department generates nearly 37% of a dealership's total gross profit. Here's how. When you finance through the dealership, the bank offers a wholesale interest rate. The dealer is allowed to increase that rate before presenting it to you, and keeps the difference. Then come extended warranties, gap insurance, and other finance products. Many of them carry markups of 50 to 200% over wholesale cost. Finance departments successfully attach these products to as many as 84% of all deals. Some owners go even further. They establish offshore reinsurance companies to hold those warranty premiums. If repair costs remain below the premiums collected, the dealership keeps the underwriting profit, often with favorable tax treatment up to certain limits. That money can then be invested separately from the dealership itself. The most profitable room you'd never guess. Service, parts, collision repair. Together, they account for only about 10 to 15% of total revenue, yet generate roughly half of a dealership's gross profit. Why? Because labor and parts often carry margins of 45 to 50%, far higher than selling cars. This matters because new car sales rise and fall with the economy. Oil changes don't. Dealerships track something called the service absorption rate. It's the percentage of total overhead covered by service and parts profit alone. Once that number reaches 100%, every car sold afterward becomes additional profit. Because the building's operating costs are already covered, most dealerships only reach around 64 to 69%. The few that exceed 100% make money almost regardless of what the car market is doing. Technicians usually work under a flat rate system. Each repair pays a preset number of labor hours, regardless of how long it actually takes. A highly skilled technician might effectively bill 60 or even 70 hours, while working only a 40-hour week. That creates predictable labor costs for the dealership, and dramatic swings in technician income. Running the machine. Salespeople usually earn between 20 and 30% commission on a vehicle's front-end profit. But before that commission is calculated, the dealership often deducts an internal pack fee. That guarantees the dealership keeps a portion of every deal first. If the deal is especially thin, the salesperson may receive only a small flat payment, known as a mini. Every dealership also depends on dealer management software, and that market is dominated by essentially two major providers. Monthly fees often range from $3,500 to $9,500. Integration costs can exceed $32,000 annually. Yet dealerships rarely switch, because changing systems is simply too disruptive. The price game, the sticker price, isn't really the price. Even the invoice price you negotiate toward is often inflated by 1 to 3%. After the sale, the manufacturer quietly refunds that amount to the dealer. It's called holdback, which means a dealership can sell a car at invoice, look you straight in the eye, and still walk away with profit you never saw on paper. Documentation fees vary dramatically depending on state regulations. Around $85 in California, more than $1,100 in states like Florida, for essentially the same paperwork. Then there's the famous four-square worksheet. Instead of negotiating one number, it separates the deal into 4 boxes. Trade-in value, vehicle price, down payment, monthly payment. Most buyers focus on the monthly payment, allowing the dealership to quietly extend loan terms, protect its margin, and increase the total interest paid over the life of the loan. Real risk, real leverage. Because nearly every vehicle is financed, higher interest rates hit dealerships from both directions. Customers become less willing to buy, while the dealership's own carrying costs continue rising. Manufacturers can also rewrite the rules overnight. In 2022, Ford required dealers to invest between $500,000 and $1.2 million in EV charging infrastructure, just to continue selling electric vehicles. By 2024, after lawsuits and weaker-than-expected EV demand, the requirement was abandoned. Dealers who had already spent the money were simply left with the bill. Add growing regulatory pressure around warranty disclosure, data security, and lending practices, and it's clear this is anything but a low-risk business. Scaling to survive. Experienced owners rarely stop at one dealership. They build groups. Multiple stores sharing accounting, human resources, customer service, and technology. That lowers operating costs, improves negotiating power, and spreads manufacturer risk across different brands. It also multiplies the reinsurance strategy. More dealerships mean more warranty contracts, more premiums, more investment income. Eventually, those investments can generate more profit than the showroom itself. So, what does it actually pay? The average franchise dealership generates nearly $60 million in annual revenue. Yet only about 2 to 2.5% becomes net profit. The owner's official salary usually falls somewhere between $112,000 and $177,000 a year. Modest, at least on paper. But then come profit distributions. Rental income from land the owner often leases back to the dealership, and dividends from a reinsurance company that most customers never even know exists. For successful owners, total annual compensation can climb into the high 6 figures, or even millions, especially when operating multiple locations. This is not passive income. It requires millions of dollars in leveraged debt before selling a single car, constant regulatory compliance, and complete dependence on decisions made by a manufacturer hundreds or even thousands of miles away. But for those who successfully navigate the system, it's one of the most resilient business models in the industry. When car sales slow, service keeps the lights on. When sales margins shrink, the finance office and holdback checks quietly fill the gap. The car was never really the product. It was simply the entry point into a machine designed to extract profit at every stage of its life.